Indy Parks Municipal Gardens has a rich history full of memories and pride. For more than a century, the building has served as the community's epicenter. Citizens Energy Group, in partnership with Indy Parks, recognize the value and purpose of this family center. Citizens and partnering contractors are generously donating time and resources to refurbish the old gym at Municipal Gardens, to restore it to its former glory as a dance hall. Sharing the Dream, a company-wide service project, will honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy by supporting renovations to improve the family center and enhance the quality of life to all in the community. Historian Connie Ziegler takes us back to the beginning of Municipal Gardens history.
The Indianapolis Canoe Club moved here from, I think, their original headquarters over in Riverside Park. And so they built a large building, which was a private country club at that time, in this spot. A building that looked a lot like this building, only it was red brick on the first floor, and then open porches all on the second floor, which was wood frame. And then in 1916, well, in the canoe club, there were a lot of social movers and shakers. A lot of the car manufacturers were members here, and they would bring, there's one great article about how they brought engineers from Europe to the canoe club for a big fancy dinner while they were here to watch the Indianapolis 500. And this was, 1913, 1914, so cars were pretty new at that time. And the 500 had only been going on for a few years too, so this was a big deal. But then just a few years later, I think in 1916, the country club burned, and they rebuilt in 1917, and the building looked very much like the original building, which makes me think that this building that's here now was probably either built on that original foundation or even is maybe mostly that original, at least brick first story. It all got stuccoed over at some point so that it all looked uniform, and the porches aren't open anymore, but they look like they could have been out there. So in 1917 it got rebuilt, and then shortly after that, about 1920, they sold it to Casino Gardens. Casino Gardens, I think, was probably named after a famous jazz club in California that Tommy Dorsey owned, Casino Gardens in California. But this Casino Gardens was also a jazz club, and a lot of people who later became famous got their starts here, or at least were playing here early on, like Hoagie Carmichael, who was from Indiana, Bix Beiderbecke, who was one of the most famous jazz cornet players ever. His group with the Wolverines played here. In fact, there's some great story about how Bix Beiderbecke told people he could just mail his mail to him at Casino Gardens in Indianapolis because he played here so much of the time. By 1927, then, the city bought it from Casino Gardens, and that is, I assume, when it became called Municipal Gardens.
Indy Parks senior manager Linda Kuntz has spent her career at Indy Parks, and her first memories began at Municipal Gardens.
Probably started coming here in 1959 or 60, and just as a quick visit with maybe my family. And then I became pretty active in the building in 62 or 63. It's hard to remember back that far, maybe even as late as 1964. There were benches between each pillar, and you came early for the basketball game so you could get a bench. Otherwise, it was 15 or 20 people deep behind each bench. When I played, I didn't draw the crowds like that, of course. The girls just didn't have quite the reputation that the guys did. And back in the 60s, it was just boys basketball. The gym is really where all the happenings were for Municipal Gardens. I was later employed with Indy Parks in 1970 and actually started here. Thanks to Linda Borello, she was my inspiration because she was my mentor when I was here as a kid, and she was employed here. And she moved to Garfield, I believe, in 1970, and I took over here as the new girls rec leader and planned sports for the girls in the community. So I later had softball teams that I coached, and I coached some basketball here and got very involved in the junior basketball program. My father remembered this as a dance/casino, and on the south side of the building there's a structure that would appear to be a cover, and it's where the cars pulled in, and it covered the women from getting out and into the elements with their nice clothes on and high heels, and they came in here and danced. And not sure there was actually gambling going on here, but my dad would remind me of that. He remembered as a child that that's what this building was for. I've known this room only as a gym, and that's where my heart is with the gym, but Lily's funded the new gym several years ago, and so we redid this room to be a fitness room and an activity room and a family reunion room. And with the remodel, it'll just be amazing. The neighbors will come in and use this building, I'm sure, for a lot of weddings and family reunions and parties. And we have a lot of mentoring programs here, so this is just a large space for the kids to become active up here. We have a senior dance program, we have a teen dance program, a youth dance program, so the floor will be refinished. And the basketball lines will be taken off, which will maybe make me shed a tear, but the dancing can be done here, and it'll be done, I'm sure, very nicely.
Former Municipal Gardens basketball coach and current volunteer Don Stout used to call Municipal Gardens his second home.
September of 1958, originally I came over because my son wanted to play football. He was between 6 and 7 years old. And I came over to coach football. And I got involved in a basketball program when I started in 58, and we at that time did anything that needed to be done. You know, if you needed to paint the floor, you painted the floor. If you needed to repair a table, you repaired the table. The maintenance was not nearly as good as it is today. And the old gym was home for a lot of young people, a lot of youth, and parents and grandparents and families. They used to fill the gym and stand and watch basketball because we didn't have enough seating capacity. But over the years, I think we've had something like maybe 14 or 15,000 youth comes through the basketball program just in this part of the gym. But then we had several players come through that had good basketball skills that played high school and basketball here and high school, and went into college and had successful careers there. Some of them are in NBA, and it just was as I said, a competitive place to play basketball and to learn basketball and some of the values of life. Had the coaches set down on the end, on the north end. People were jammed into the benches in between the posts, practically on the playing floor. And it was really loud in here. We did a lot of refereeing originally ourselves. In fact, I've coached and refereed both in the game. And it was really bedlam in here, but it was a good bedlam because it was constructive. This building is, I just kind of fell in love with it when I first came. It was solid, you know it was going to be here for a while.